And at this time, to kind of get a little bit further into the preschool and the preschool funding, we have a longtime parent, Mrs. Sneath, who also has a child in our new preschool program that just started in January. So I'd like to invite Mrs. Sneath to the podium to say a few words. Thank you, Mrs. Sneath.
Good morning. My name is Rebecca Sneath. I am a mother of 4 children. My 2 boys, Brandon and Ryan, are 20 and 11. My youngest is Jessica, and she's 12 months old. Juliana is 3, and we are excited to say that she was recently able to begin the new full-day preschool program here at Woodmere School. Juliana has been watching her older brother Ryan get on the bus to school in the morning, and she recently began to say she wanted to go to school as well. My husband and I researched multiple preschools in the area, and we were surprised to find about the prohibitive costs of programs where children could only go for half days or 2 or 3 days a week. It broke our hearts that we couldn't send Juliana to school at that time, so we decided we would wait and see if she could heed to pre-K next year before eventually moving on to kindergarten the following year. But then we found out that thanks to Governor Murphy, a full-day, no-cost pre-K would be coming to Eatontown. Once we told Juliana she was going to school and that she'd be taking a bus to school as well, her entire face lit up with joy. She couldn't wait for her first day. When the first day came, she was all smiles and she stepped on the bus without a tear in her eye. She waved goodbye to my husband and I, and we were so proud of the big girl that she had become. Every day since then, she comes home from school and tells me a few things about her day, like what she ate for lunch, that she looked at books, colored, painted, went outside, and climbed on the playground with the other children, etc. Her happiness means the world to us, and this program has already opened up her world and her mind in just a little over a week. She already seems extremely mature to us. Full-day preschool is a huge step for families in New Jersey because our children are eager to learn at such a young age, and when they have the opportunity to be in a classroom with qualified educators as well as other children their age for the social aspect, it makes a world of difference for their development. It's unfortunate that some families can't afford to pay for their younger children to attend preschool while other families can. When full-day preschool is offered to all children, it will allow students to enter kindergarten with similar backgrounds. Our family would like to thank Governor Murphy for making pre-K a priority. We truly believe that educational opportunity at an early age should always remain at the top of the list. It is my pleasure to introduce Governor Murphy, someone who understands the importance of our children's education. Thank you.
Really well done. Well done. Thank you. It is a treat to be here. Rebecca, thank you for your introduction. I also had the great pleasure of meeting Juliana, in fact, before I met you, and she is really impressive. We are here today because parents like you and children like Juliana deserve a true partner in ensuring a bright start to a lifetime of learning. I also want to thank the superintendent, Scott McHugh, who does an exceptional job in your 8th season. Not declaring free agency, please stay. I want to thank you for your welcome and thank you for everything you do. I also want to thank the team, the principal and the supervisors here at Woodmere Elementary School, home of, by the way, let me make sure this is said for the record, Woody the Woodmere Wildcat. But you have an extraordinary team, and we're honored to be here today. I am proud, as I always am, to be joined by the Commissioner of Education, the one, the only Dr. Lamont Repillette. And as you all know, he hung his hat for several years right down the block in Asbury Park. And I say that as a Monmouth County guy, so we're all in this together. I also want to thank our representatives from the 11th Legislative District, Vin, Eric, and Joanne. Thank you for being here today. Members of Eatontown's Council, members of the Board of Education, and a whole passel of educators, including my friend and former neighbor, Robin Sokol-Stella, and parents and administrators, as well as, by the way, a lot of organizations that have been passionate about pre-K, about educational funding generally. So I want to give a shout out. Some of them are here. That certainly includes the NJEA and the AFT. So thank you guys for your support. Pre-K Our Way, Advocates for Children of New Jersey, United Way of Northern New Jersey, Save Our Schools, Fair Funding Action Committee, among other organizations. All of us are dedicated to ensuring a high-quality pre-kindergarten program for the students, not just here, but elsewhere around the state. Today, we are pleased doesn't, I don't think, quite capture it, we're thrilled to announce that 33 school districts in the state of New Jersey, including right here in Eatontown, have been approved to share more than $26.9 million. Carrie Booker in the back is going to make sure my math is right, to expand, or in some cases even begin, a high-quality pre-K program. The Eatontown School District is receiving $314,000, an investment that will allow 34-year-olds to experience full-day pre-K. They're not actually all 30. They're actually not all 4-year, as I've just determined. I did a quick head count, but they're plus or minus 4. We'll round it up to 4. So one class of 15 students will be housed right here at Woodmere, and I just had a great ball hanging out with them. And another class of 15 will be conducted through a service sharing agreement with Accelero Learning in Asbury Park. In addition, 16 3-year-olds will continue to be able to attend a tuition-based half-day session. Throughout this school year, New Jersey has now invested more than $47 million in preschool education funding, part of a total of $83 million commitment made to our youngest learners through our budget. We've been able to provide funding to 64 school districts this academic year, reaching more than 4,400 3- and 4-year-olds across New Jersey. Here and elsewhere, every pre-K program we help to start or to grow not only challenges but changes a status quo that says we can only educate children from kindergarten to high school. We know that a high-quality pre-K program can start a child on a path to higher achievement, with benefits that follow them throughout their education and across their lives, and which positively impact their entire community. A report from the National Forum on Early Childhood Policy and Programs has shown that for every dollar we invest in our children at the very beginning can help us back many times over, with a return of up to $9 for every dollar that we invest over the course of that child's life. I actually co-chaired a national task force on public education a dozen or so years ago, and we concluded that the best money you can spend is the money up front at the earliest ages. And I think in our study a dozen years ago, it was $7 you got back for every dollar you invested. But whether it's 7 or 9, the payoff is undeniable. The lives that we change are undeniable. And through these expanded pre-K programs, we are also making New Jersey a more compelling place to raise a family. And that is not an insignificant point here. Up and down the state, from here in Eatontown, north to Sussex County and south to Cape May County, 33 more communities now have the state as a full partner in the success of their pre-K school children. This is a partnership I am committed to continuing. And it's part of a broader arc to allow kids in our state from pre-K right up at least through community college and associate's degree to achieve that lifetime of education free of charge, and to retain and maintain the extraordinary excellence that New Jersey is so proud of in our educational system. Before I introduce one doctor, I have to say I'm looking up there thinking that says it all. The more that you read, the more things you will know. The more that you learn, the more places you'll go. So that's one doctor. That was Dr. Seuss. It's now my honor to introduce another doctor, the Commissioner of the Department of Education, and the man, as I mentioned earlier, who knows firsthand the promise of Monmouth County kids, Dr. Lamont Repollet.
Good morning, everyone. As the governor said, it's a great day to be here today. I want to thank Governor Murphy for his vision for expanding pre-K. I want to thank Superintendent, my buddy and my partner, and former colleague Scott McHugh, our Principal Bragner, Board President Mr. English, and Vice President Mr. Lawson, and members of the new preschool team, as well as the legislators here we have today. Eatontown alone close to $315,000 for a high-quality pre-K program for 33 and 4-year-old children for the first time in this district. Some of the key elements of a high-quality preschool include limited class sizes, children taught by a certified teacher, and transition to a full-day program, and inclusive of special ed and ELL students. We're happy to see that Eatontown now offers this to a number of districts, number of students, 3 and 4-year-olds in their district, and expanding, hopefully, as Scott said, expanding next year. In fact, Eatontown is one of, as the governor said, 33 districts receiving aid through the Preschool Education Expansion Aid Grant, so that 2,320 children will start this year in a high-quality program. So January 1st, we have 2,320 students starting in a brand-new pre-K program. Now, that's something to give credit to. New Jersey is proud to be top in the nation increasing preschool funding, with the ultimate goal of offering universal preschool education. As the governor says, by investing in early childhood education, we are making a long-term investment in the next generation. We know that a child's earliest years are critical times during which rapid brain development occurs. We know these milestones inform their cognitive skills, health, and behavior throughout their life. Therefore, investing in preschool education is vitally important for the development of childhood education. Pre-K also gives students a jump start on their academic career and prepares them for the challenges beyond the classroom. The benefits of preschool are many. It sparks a child's curiosity, boosts their physical activity, builds trust in other children as well as adults, improves reading and math skills, and fosters improved self-esteem. The individual and the community benefits of preschool continue life after. For every $1 we invest in high-quality early childhood program, as the governor said, we see a return of $7 in taxpayer dollars, increased high school graduation rates, lower incarceration rates, and lower pregnancy rates. The fact is, districts like Eatontown are not only preparing students for future success, they're also helping bridge the gap for children from low-income families, as Scott said, the equity gap, who oftentimes are disadvantaged amongst their peers. In the words of the children's rights activist, Marion Edelman, education is for improving the lives of others and for leaving our community and world better than you found it. In the end, that is what it's all about, giving our children, the great state of New Jersey, and all our communities, the best possible shot to succeed in life. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know who's harder to follow, Lamont or Marion Wright Edelman, but I think we'll take a couple of questions if we could before we break. Please.
Governor, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
So first I wanted to applaud your efforts and say thank you. Oh, thanks. I wanted to say thank you for investing in New Jersey's preschool population. And while we support the efforts, 25% of the districts on the list are actually over-aided, and some of them upwards of 270% of their legal entitlement under SFRA. And considering the state's financial constraints, we're concerned because the K-12 financial obligations have not yet been met. So our question to you is, in your initial budget, do you plan to follow S2? And how much additional money do you plan to put into education, recognizing that when the DOE releases their numbers, the school aid numbers, that's how the budgets are built?
So thank you for that. Let me say that it's too early to say on the budget. So the budget will be unveiled in early March. We're in the early stages right now, as you can imagine, of focusing on that. As a general matter, I think, and I don't mean this to be exclusive of other worthy endeavors, because we fund a lot of other worthy endeavors, but we're going to go down with the ship investing in education and infrastructure. So you should assume that there will be a heavy dose of all of the above, and I appreciate your point. Importantly, this is the second tranche. This is the second time Lamont and I have stood up and talked about funding of pre-K. The first was in the fall. And that first set of districts had to meet really two criteria because we got the money, we wanted to get it up running quickly. And that is that they needed to have already some experience with running pre-K operations. And secondly, they had to meet some needs tests, typically measured by things like free or reduced lunch quotients as a percentage of their students. This tranche has a batch of districts that don't necessarily have prior experience in running pre-K, but there is still a needs requirement. In this case, that at a minimum of 20% of kids are on free or reduced lunch as a measure of poverty. And so I wanted to say that earlier. We are starting, as we are, I might add, I mentioned access to community college. We're starting with the high need end of the spectrum in both how we fund the multi-year journey in pre-K and how we roll out another multi-year journey in funding in our objective to meet universal access to community college. David.
Governor, this wonderful event.
I just would say I'm not sure I'm comfortable with the microphone, I have to say, because you give it to a guy like that and he may hold it for the next hour or two.
I don't really need it.
So it's not that you need it either, I might add.
This wonderful event notwithstanding, you had another meeting set today with leaders of the Assembly and the Senate. Why has that been pushed off, and what does it say about the big issues that are facing?
It says very little, and I think we all came to that conclusion together. And that just because we're not in a room together, we've had a very significant amount of communication in the margins, even in the course of the past couple of days. Matt?
Piggybacking off of that, Governor.
Another guy I really loathe handing the mic to, even though I have an enormous regard for you.
Just piggybacking off of that, in terms late last year or last month, it sounded like legislative leaders were very optimistic about at least the deal on minimum wage. You're indicating that people are still talking. I mean, how much closer, farther away to these delays? Where are we in terms of talk with minimum wage? And
I'm not sure.
Disappointed that it's taking.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Listen, I'm frustrated it hasn't happened already. Let me say that for the record, as I've said probably 100 times. Having said that, there's a spirit of goodwill. There's a good amount of communication. I remain optimistic. When? I'm not sure exactly what exactly it looks like. You've heard me say before, we want to get to $15 as fast and as responsibly as possible. And I don't want to create, and while I'm reasonable about this, I don't want to create a permanent second class of citizen in the state. And I think that we can adhere to those objectives and get something done sooner than later. Please.
Governor, you've acknowledged that you tried to solicit donations for New Direction. How many people did you try to solicit from, and who were they?
I have no idea in terms of numbers, and I solicit over my life money for organizations. Matt, I wouldn't have called that an awkward moment. I thought that it was known that I raise a lot of money for a lot of organizations over my life, including New Direction, New Jersey.
January of 2018.
I don't have an answer for you. I speak to people morning, noon, and night. Please. I just want to make sure that our friends in the press don't, unless David.
This is kind of unrelated, but a group of Republican legislators have started an online petition against licenses for unauthorized residents in the state. Do you have an opinion on that and an opinion on the likelihood or the viability of licenses for the undocumented?
So I do have an opinion. I don't agree with them. I think for the impacted individuals who right now are prohibited from getting a license, it is a game changer. If you listen to the stories, as I have, up and down the state of the folks who have to take buses, trains, rely on others, and it's a 2 or 3 hour journey, in some cases more, one way to a job, never mind back, it's a game changer for these individuals. Secondly, and this is a point that we need to make as strongly, or even maybe perhaps more strongly, it's good for all of us. It makes our roads safer. It makes the entire society, I think, in a much better place. So I am not in agreement with, I have not seen the petition, so I can't say specifically to what they're saying, but conceptually I'm opposed to it. I'm strongly supportive and sooner than later of folks having the ability to get a driver's license regardless of their status, assuming they have to go through all the things that we all had to go through in order to get that license. Please.
Any comments on the continuing government shutdown?
I love you for always asking me about this. It's just, it's hard for me to sort of, without getting too emotional about it, but we got a president who's throwing a hissy fit, and it's in the amount of lives that are being impacted. So we actually had a meeting yesterday, and it wasn't the entire agenda, but a good chunk of the agenda are the implications now, and if this remains for the state of New Jersey, it's typically going to impact folks. Yes, there'll be delays at airports and licenses to start businesses, which are also real, but unfortunately the brunt is going to more often than not be borne by folks who rely on some element of a social welfare program. And that is, and apparently our president doesn't have any care for those individuals or for the 800,000 federal workers who are now, in some cases, desperate situations on paying rent, paying mortgages, health care, education for their kids, kitchen table stuff. Again, no regard for it whatsoever. It's my sense, without being in the room, that the Democratic leadership have said that they are very willing to consider a whole range of things that make our smart things that make our borders stronger. But you've got a president who's fixated on this one thing, and he's putting so much at risk. So it's not a pretty situation. It's not a crisis in New Jersey yet, but it's growing by the day, and it's a concern. Real quick, sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring the attention back to early education.
Yep. God forbid. We'll end it here because this is a good way to end it.
I'm Michelle Rose with United Way of Northern New Jersey. And I just
Good to have you.
wanted to hear from either yourself or Dr. Ruffalett about the state's position about supporting collaboration in the community between school districts and community partners. I commend Eatontown on partnering with your local community-based agency. I just wanted to hear a statement from you about that.
You want to answer that one, Matt?
That's a great question. We've had initial meetings with, I guess, the association, people representing those individuals' pre-K centers. We look forward, the governor's adamant about collaboration and engagement, so we are looking to do that. I know there's some challenges with some of the requirements for our pre-K expansion, but we're looking to try to overcome that. We are working not in silos, but working with our Department of Children and Family Services and Human Services to make sure that we kind of coordinate efforts together to make sure that we can collaborate more effectively. Thank you.
I think that's a nice grace note on which to end this. This is a multi-year journey. You know, if we were a AAA bond-rated state with a huge largesse, we'd be doing this a lot faster. But we are playing the hand as best we can play it. Lamont and I and our teams, and I think I can speak for the legislators as well, are completely convinced of the case. So we're going to scrap for every penny we can scrap, every creative solution, as long as the standards are at the level that we need and are acceptable to continue to roll this out throughout the state. I want to thank Scott, to you and your team in the superintendent's office, the principal, and the extraordinary team of educators here. Recess, I guess. Our legislative brothers and sisters, Board of Ed, Council, our educator unions, and the activists and community groups for being with us today. Have a great one.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.